Original sin is a lie. The concept of original sin has been a cornerstone of many Christian doctrines for centuries. However, a perspective challenges this traditional view, emphasizing the finished work of Christ as the ultimate solution to sin. According to this view, the idea of original sin is not only misleading, but also undermines the power and completeness of what Jesus accomplished on the cross. Understanding original sin. According to traditional Christian theology, original sin refers to the sin inherited from Adam and Eve's disobedience in the Garden of Eden. It suggests that every human is born with a sinful nature and is guilty before God from birth. This belief has influenced many doctrines and practices within the Christian faith, including infant baptism and the necessity of grace for salvation. The finished work of Christ. The term finished work of Christ refers to John 19:30. This statement signifies the completion of his mission to reconcile humanity with God. According to this perspective, Jesus' sacrifice was sufficient to deal with all sin, past, present, and future. His resurrection signifies the victory over sin and death, offering believers a new identity in Christ. Original sin versus finished work of Christ. 1. Christ's finished work emphasizes that humanity has been redeemed and reconciled with God through his death and resurrection. This means that the power of sin has been broken and believers are no longer under its dominion. The idea of original sin conflicts with this by suggesting that humans are still inherently sinful and separated from God. In Paul writes, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old is gone, the new is here." This verse highlights that believers are made new in Christ and their old sinful nature has been replaced. The concept of original sin contradicts this by implying that the old nature persists even after accepting Christ. 3. The finished work of Christ provides believers with a new identity as children of God. For he chose us in him before the world's creation to be holy and blameless in his sight, according to Ephesians 1:4 and 5. In love, he predestined us for adoption to sonship through Jesus Christ. This new identity is incompatible with the idea of inherited guilt and sinfulness, implications of rejecting original sin. 1. Empowerment and freedom. Embracing the finished work of Christ empowers believers to live in the freedom and victory that Jesus has secured. It encourages a mindset of overcoming and righteousness rather than perpetual guilt and inadequacy. 2. Focus on grace. The rejection of original sin shifts the focus to God's grace and the transformative power of Jesus' sacrifice. It underscores that salvation is not about overcoming an inherent sinful nature, but about accepting the grace freely offered through Christ. Positive view of humanity. This perspective promotes a more positive view of human nature by rejecting the notion of original sin. It recognizes that while humans can still sin, they are not fundamentally sinful beings, but are capable of righteousness and goodness through Christ. The finished work of Christ challenges the traditional doctrine of original sin, offering a more hopeful and empowering understanding of salvation. It emphasizes that through Jesus' sacrifice, believers are made new, reconciled with God, and free from the dominion of sin. This perspective encourages Christians to live in the victory and freedom that Christ has already secured, focusing on grace and the transformative power of his love. In embracing this view, believers can experience the full depth of what it means to be a new creation in Christ, living lives reflecting hope, joy, and righteousness from his finished work.